point.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Green using the Curry screen. Kicks it in the corner. Moody, the drive, way up. Missed it. Rebound, Richard, back up and in. Oh, Richard, the rookie, with 14 points. And the Warriors regain the lead.
Well, the Warriors fought down the stretch, but not nearly enough offense tonight, not nearly enough three-point shooting in the second half to offset the offensive rebounding prowess of the Houston Rockets, who get a career night from Reed Shepherd, and they come into Chase Center without Kevin Durant, and they beat the Warriors tonight 104-100. We welcome you in on that note here to the pre-Thanksgiving edition of Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader, live from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City as the Warriors fall to 10-10 on the season. We welcome you in here on KNBR, on the YouTube channel as well, YouTube and Twitch. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open. Let's react to this one, as the second half in particular for the Warriors was ugly. Golden State putting up 59 points in the first half. They wind up, do the math, and it's simple math. They wind up with 41 in the second half. The Rockets end up outscoring the Warriors 57-41 in the second half to win the game 104-100. Steve Kerr often says that it takes 20 games in any particular season to figure out what kind of a team you have for that season. And as the Warriors drop to 10-10, I think the point at which we can start the conversation, this team's just flat out not good enough. Flat out not good enough, not deep enough, not getting enough contributions from even players who were able to contribute significantly more toward the back end of last year. Guys off to some pretty poor starts. And, oh, by the way, now Steph Curry is injured. And so we'll give you the latest when we hear from Steve Kerr inside Chase Center as it relates to Steph and Curry. Gary Payton II with an injury, an ankle injury. So we'll give you the latest on GP2 as well, as we know. But the Rockets come in without Durant. They take a pound of flesh. They do it with their defense, and they leave the Warriors now basically looking like a play-in team as we sit here on the night before Thanksgiving, and a homestand continuing with the Pelicans on Saturday before Oklahoma City comes in on Tuesday. And you hope that 2 days off before the Pelicans and then another 2 days off before you face Oklahoma City is enough to potentially allow for Steph and Curry to play in both, if not at a minimum the game against OKC. But Steph Curry had the look, and you hate to speculate, as he was talking to Rick Celebrini there on the Warriors bench with about 35 seconds to go, and the Warriors down, but the game not over. And Celebrini basically said, hey, let's get you out of the game. And so Steph at that point leaves and heads to the Warriors locker room. And he was limping. Really, it looked like maybe he pulled up with some kind of a hamstring or some kind of a leg injury a couple of plays before one of the pivotal plays of the game, which was the charging call, or the charging call originally against Amen Thompson that the Rockets challenged and was overturned into being a blocking foul against Stephen Curry. And then Curry just hit the deck a couple of times after that. Even the Rockets really throwing Curry around, trying to be extremely physical with him defensively, and Curry taken to the floor a couple of more times down the stretch. And then finally, Rick Celebrini making the call to take him out of the game. So we'll get you the latest on Steph as we learn more at the podium inside Chase Center from Steve Kerr and others. But this team's in trouble right now, sitting at 10-10, 20 games into the season, basically at the quarter pole, and just not good enough but at all. After the 4-1 start, they were able to rally there for the 2 wins in San Antonio, and then get the game against the Pelicans going back about 10 days ago. But since then, it's been more of the same. You lose in Orlando, you punt on the game in Miami, you come back and you don't have nearly enough down the stretch or in the second half against Portland. And in some ways, a similar vibe as the Portland game 5 nights ago this game. And again, the Rockets not necessarily known for their offensive prowess, and it looks like it's going to be a right quad contusion for Stephen Curry, according to the Warriors. He's going to get an MRI, so a right quad contusion for Steph Curry late in the game. That is good. A bruise is good. A bruise is better than something going on with a muscle or something going on with a ligament. But the MRI, and Steph was again limping significantly, limping like somebody that wasn't going to be able to play in a couple of days at a minimum. Talking about maybe the game on Saturday. So right quad contusion for Stephen Curry. He's going to get an MRI, and then we'll see the latest on that coming maybe at some point on your Thanksgiving holiday. Everybody holding their breath, or early on Friday, with the Warriors going to be back at practice on Friday before they take on the Pelicans coming up on Saturday. They will have a full off day tomorrow with the 2 days off in between games. So let's react to this one. 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. We got Kyle Haar in our Daly City studios. We'll get to a lengthy and spirited edition, I'm sure, of Kyle's clicks here as we roll on toward 11 o'clock on this Thanksgiving Eve. And I'll give you my thoughts on this one. But that's kind of the question I want to get to here right off the top. It's Steve Kerr, and we'll get into the details about this game, but Steve Kerr says, hey, it takes 20 games to figure out what kind of team you have. So I'm just going to ask, what kind of team do the Warriors have at this point as you look at them now 20 games in? It looked like it had the potential early to be better than that. But, I mean, this team, as it's gone on, whether it's been age, injuries, lack of ability to score, tonight it was about rebounding and turnovers. The Rockets, they didn't even have Steven Adams tonight, but the thing that the Rockets do better than anything, they defend and they really crush the offensive glass, and they hurt the Warriors in a big-time way throughout the course of the night on the offensive glass. Too many turnovers in particular in the fourth quarter, even though the Warriors wound up on the night cleaning up some of the turnover issues. I think it was 8 in the first quarter. I think they had 8 in the final 3 quarters, if I've got that right, as it relates to going back. The Warriors end up with 16 turnovers, which we've seen them have worse nights than that. But the points off turnovers 22, points off the offensive rebound, second chance points in this one ended up 17 for Houston and 25 offensive rebounds. So the Warriors were doing the job defensively, and it was a night where the Rockets didn't even shoot 40% in this game. But the Warriors in the first half, I thought, were able to outshoot the turnovers and outshoot the extra possessions because of the extra possessions because of the offensive rebounds. And it just in the second half, they were unable to do it. You look up into the first half, 10 of 22, the Warriors from 3-point range. So kind of a fake shooting 3-point half for Golden State against the way the Rockets are typically able to defend. But in the second half, the Warriors went 1 for 19 from 3-point range, 1 for their first 19 before Moses Moody hit one late. And you look up through the second half, and it wound up being a 2 for 21 from 3-point range. So that, to me, was the story of the game. The Warriors outshot the things that ailed them in the first half and were unable to do it in the second half. And this team, again, not enough size to be able to contend with the offensive rebounding prowess of the Rockets, and just not enough shooting and playmaking and others who can create and generate offense aside from Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler when they run things through Jimmy Butler. And, they've got some young players. Will Richard, I thought, played well tonight. Podziemski, this was not by any means Podziemski's worst game of the season, but he did end up with 14 points and overall a -7, and just is trying to let the game come to him, but also I think is still a little bit caught in his own head. That the 3 missed free throws, I thought, was another pivot point in the fourth quarter. Warriors found themselves in kind of a back and forth affair. as they were down 8 at 86-78 in the fourth quarter. They go on a run to take the lead on that Will Richard putback that we played coming in here at the top of the show. And then it was back and forth from there. And Brandon Pajemski goes to the free throw line with the Warriors down 2 at 93-91 after the overturned offensive foul originally called against Amen Thompson was turned into a blocking foul against Curry. Pods gets fouled, goes to the line, and misses not 1, not 2, although only 2 count, but 3 consecutive free throws. There was a lane violation against the Rockets, and Pods missed all 3 free throws in a moment where he could have retied the game there. Then Reed Shepherd hit a jumper, career high 31 for Reed Shepherd, another charge against Curry, and then Sengun with a bucket, and that was basically the end of the night for the Warriors as they wind up losing this one 104-100, and the Rockets are able to get the job done in this game without Kevin Durant, who's missed the last couple of games due to personal reasons. And so the Warriors find themselves sitting here now 10-10 through the first 20 games of the season. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The number to join the conversation via the phone lines or via the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. Let's get to the YouTube chat as well here as folks file in on this holiday, Thanksgiving Eve Wednesday. And Kyle, you put one up earlier that we can get to as well. Yeah, Florida Dubs fan, they are truly a 500 team. And yes, JD, this game did feel like the Portland game. Yeah, the second half absolutely felt a lot like the Portland game, even though the Rockets do it more with their defense. The Blazers were doing it with their offense. But yeah, the rebounding, the inability of the Warriors to stop some of the straight line drives. And when the offense goes to bed for Golden State, there's just other ways in which teams have the ability to beat the Warriors that the Warriors currently don't possess. And you look at it, and it winds up adding up to being a loss. And I think the greater takeaway for me is just this team doesn't have enough. And we got into they're going to have to make multiple moves. Like this, they're going to have to riding it out with the group that they have is just not going to cut it. And the problem that they find themselves in is the fact that they are sitting here at 10-10, and now we'll see what the status of Steph Curry is. But they can't make moves at this point. At least on Kuminga, they can't make moves. I think Brandon Pajemski is somebody they're going to have to look to move on from, especially once they get DeAnthony Melton back and in the mix. And if he can prove that he can be healthy, not that you want him absorbing a ton of minutes, but they're going to have to shake up this roster because the balance that the Warriors thought they had based on the way the final 31 games ended last year and the way the first 5 games started this year, it just is not there. It just is not there top to bottom. And so they're going to have to figure out a way to infuse, I think, some veteran and young veteran presence in a couple of different areas, whether it's that combo guard that can get their own shot, the 3-and-D wing that continues to be a player that they cannot seem to find, regardless of how those players tend to pop up on a bunch of other teams throughout the course of the league. And look, if Al Horford's going to be unavailable or as ineffective as Al Horford has been, and he didn't play tonight, so you definitely don't want to put it on him, but if he's going to be as ineffective as he's been to begin the year, then they may have to go try to find another option in terms of a big man that they can throw into the mix, and players that have the ability to compete and contend with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, because that foundation of the team is still good enough to be built around. The problem, though, is those 3 are not good enough on a night-in, night-out basis right now to carry this thing without the help. And some nights that's going to mean it's the help that's part of the problem, but some nights it's going to be, and I think you look at tonight, it's going to be that your best players just can't bring it at the level that's needed on a consistent enough basis. Those things go hand in hand as you look at this roster overall, and you look at the means in which the Warriors have the ability to potentially get better. They're stuck right now, though. Make no mistake, they're stuck right now in terms of what they can do. Dr. P, be real, JD. This team is a borderline play-in team. No way they can contend unless they make big changes at the deadline. 100%. That's exactly what I'm saying. They are, and look, the bottom of the Western Conference stinks. So they'd have to be. I mean, they could lose 6 in a row from where they stand right now and still be in they might still be in 10th at that point. The 10th spot is so bad. But no, this team definitely looks like a 7, 8, 9 as opposed to a 4, 5, 6. And is there time for that to change? Yes. Do I believe that it can change with this roster? No, I don't. I think you can look around at who the keepers are and who the guys that potentially can either be used to bring in other talent, the guys that fit, the guys they don't. And look, just because you look at a particular player and say, hey, this player either doesn't fit with the rest of the group and complement the rest of the group in the way that you would want, it doesn't mean you're putting the blame on that player. But the one thing we know is that you're not moving on from Steph, and you're not moving on from Jimmy Butler, and you're not moving on from Draymond Green. So others have to be the guys that you move on from in an attempt to bring in players that you think can help this team get better on the fly. And look, I'm at the point, and I know there was, somebody trolling me for, boy, JD's all ticked off tonight because he can't blame Kuminga. And I mean, the reality is, look, Jonathan Kuminga ain't saving this. And Brandon Pajemski, I think we're getting a clear picture of the fact that he ain't saving this either. Buddy Hield has stunk to begin this season for the Golden State Warriors, and they're just not getting enough up and down the line from players that they were getting more productivity from more consistently last year. They're not getting as much consistent productivity even from Quentin Post than they got last year. Buddy Hield, Brandon Pajemski, no. Kuminga, the fit is still an issue for him. Moses Moody and Will Richard, I feel like are two guys that can be players that you want and can fit alongside Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. So, okay, that's 5 players. You can't have 5 players that you look at and you trust and that you can fit. Adrian Gutierrez chiming in here. The problem is that the Warriors' best players are old. You need the young guys to step up, and they aren't doing it. They're incapable of doing it. They're incapable of doing it. Pajemski is incapable of stepping up and being a carrier. Kuminga's had 5 years. He didn't play tonight. It ain't about him tonight. And again, it's not so much the blame game. It's the reality of the fact that the young players are the guys who have to be moved in an attempt to bring in other players. And yeah, because the Warriors are an older team, you do need the young players to try to step up and step in and be a factor, but they're incapable. Dignam, 117. My problem is that the Warriors had to know this going into the season versus it being a revelation now. And that's the question that they're going to have to answer. Because they didn't, Diggum. I think, and we've talked about this, they overvalued the 23-8 close to the season after the Jimmy Butler trade. They overvalued it with the belief that it would be a more similar win-loss record over an 82-game season. And the reality is you're not getting the collective all in every single night from the veterans that you were getting because they embarrassed themselves to that point. In the lead up to the trade deadline, or in the lead up to the trade deadline before they got Jimmy, they had embarrassed themselves to the point to where they were fighting just to remain in the play-in, let alone try to get up to the 6th seed and avoid the play-in. Ultimately, the 23-8 got them to 7th because they dropped the final game of the season to the Clippers. But the reality for Golden State is they over expected that they could keep a version of the 23-8 spread out over an 82-game season, and Steph and Jimmy and Draymond are too old. And look, Steph's held up his end of the bargain for the most part this year. He didn't have a good night tonight, and the Rockets get some credit for that. 14 points and 4 of 13, 2 of 9 from 3. Steph's going to have bad games. You need others to be able to step up and be able to fill some of the void. They're not getting the, and I think Steph and Jimmy both have been good overall, but they're not getting the same level that they got at the end of last year from the vets. They are on some nights, right? But you're not getting it nearly as consistently as you were over those final 31. And it's foolish, Diggum, to think that you would get it over 82 because of the age. And then they again over accounted for the ability for the young players to, I think, make leaps that shouldn't have been expected. But here's the reality. Moses Moody hasn't been as good as he was in the final 31 games last year. Brandon Pajemski has not been as good as he was in the final 31 games last year. Jonathan Kuminga was, for the first 6 or 7 games, a better, he wasn't playing then, but he was he was on the upswing from where he was last year, obviously not being a factor because he was injured, but he hasn't been a factor since, when he's been on the court and now off the court again. And so, they're just not up and down. They're not getting the same from Buddy Hield. They're not getting the same from Quentin Post. They really aren't getting the same level of production from anybody other than Steph and Jimmy. And I would maintain even Jimmy is doing it in on a lot of nights in even less aggressive way. And part of the reason it's a less aggressive way, or it appears to be a less aggressive way for Jimmy, is because when Jimmy was really cooking at the end of last year, he was setting things up for others, and the others were hitting shots. So Jimmy looked better because the others were making shots. And now the others are not making shots, which I think makes Jimmy, even being an unselfish player, not look nearly as good. Rich Ray chiming in. The Warriors are worse than last year, and not the fault of the big three. I think that's a fair statement at this point, as we've laid out here. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader, as the Warriors lose to the Rockets 104-100. They are 10-10, and Steph Curry is going for an MRI tomorrow, likely, and we'll see. It's a quad strain for Stephen Curry here, leaving the game with 35 seconds to go in this one, as the Warriors lose to the Houston Rockets. And Steve Kerr saying to reporters, and we'll probably play this cut coming up a little bit later, but Kerr said on the Steph injury, when I heard it was a quad, I was actually relieved. Said it was better than an ankle or a knee. So we'll see what the MRI says. And again, hopefully it's something that can heal with anywhere between, let's say, 3 and 5 days of rest, with the Warriors having the next couple of games more spread out than the games have been recently. They'll play on Saturday night, so a couple of days off before the game against the Pelicans Saturday, then a couple of more days off before they play OKC, and then the Warriors go on the road, and the games start to become a little bit more compacted for that weekend before they find their fate as it relates to the schedule, with the in-season tournament rolling on. The Warriors are going to have a couple of regular season games added, one home and one away, as they officially end up getting eliminated from the group of death in the Emirates Cup, with the loss and some of the other things going on throughout the course of the league tonight. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. 909 chiming in on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. I think this team needs to rebuild, point blank, tear it down, start over. Again, that's not happening. Steph Curry is, if you're doing that, you're trading Steph Curry, and you're not trading Steph Curry. So the Warriors are in on this year trying to be as good as they possibly can. And if this team proves itself to not be good enough, then I do think they're on a year-to-year plan in terms of determining that. The rebuild may be coming sooner than people think if this team can't get it in gear, though. But it's not going to be right now. It's not going to be this season. Maybe it's at the end of this season. But this team is committed to Steph for the next 2 years, and Jimmy for the next 2 years, and Draymond for the next 2 years. It needs to be about how can you infuse this roster, and it's a roster that needs an infusion of life from the others. it feels to me that the others are dragging down the vets. And you can say, JD, that's unfair. There are plenty of nights where the vets aren't, don't bring it and they're not getting enough from the vets. It doesn't matter. When you commit to the players that the Warriors have committed to, you have to continue with that commitment. And here's the other part of the rebuild conversation. The Warriors don't have any young talent to rebuild around. You want to hand the keys to Brandon Pajemski and Jonathan Kuminga in a rebuild right now? I mean, hell no. Who wants to do that? And look, Quentin Post, I think, on a lot of nights executes his role. Will Richard and Moses Moody, and even Moody, Moody's inconsistent as hell. Moses Moody has not been as consistent as he was down the stretch last year when this team went 23-8. He's got to be, it's one night he's hot, the next night he's cold. Again, I feel like his bad games hurt the Warriors less than, say, when Pajemski's bad or when Kuminga is bad. But, Moses Moody hasn't exactly been consistent. So that's another point to the, if you had this young talent that you thought was the core of some good team in 3 to 5 years, then maybe you do think about tearing it down. But they don't have that. So it's a matter of all in. And I'm sorry, they're going to have some difficult conversations because this thing is beyond the tough schedule with all the road games and the way everything. It's beyond that. It's absolutely beyond that at this particular point in time for the Warriors. And I think they're going to have to look at more drastic measures. Bennett Roth, 23-8, looking like smoke and mirrors. I thought it was real. But we talked about it last year, and Kyle, you can speak to this. I mean, we knew even last year that was not going to be something that could be replicated over an 82-game season with the way that with how hard the Warriors had to play on a night-in, night-out basis to earn those wins and how hard Steph and Jimmy and Draymond had to play. That's another part of the issue. Steph's been bringing it at a pretty high level. But Jimmy and Draymond, and I think the three of them collectively, just can't bring the effort to carry this team to wins against even middling teams at home. And, it's Portland at home, and you need Steph and Jimmy and Draymond to be awesome. It's Orlando on the road. You need them to be awesome. Milwaukee on the road. You need them to be awesome, and they're not. That's to me the problem is the level at which they need those guys committed to be able to win. Forget about, tonight's actually one of the few games this year where you say, all right, it's Houston. It's a rematch of the playoffs. The Warriors are really going to care about tonight and really fight and want to win tonight. Tonight's one of the few games I can look at on the schedule through the first 20 that the Warriors badly wanted and just couldn't get. Typically when they bring that level of energy and intensity and focus, they're able to win and finish those games off, but tonight, not the case. So this team, again, at this point, and I'm using what Steve Kerr said a couple of weeks ago, that it takes 20 games to figure out the team that you have. So I think at this point, 20 games in, we are learning now what team the Warriors have, and that this team is not good enough, and they have to be able to revamp and reshuffle the rotation a little bit with players that aren't currently on the roster. And the problem is they're going to have to figure out a means to do that before, because they can't trade Kuminga, whether you like him or hate him or think he's a scapegoat or think I blame him too much or whatever. You can't even trade him for 50 more days. So they got to figure out a way to make it work. Brandon Pajemski, as we've talked about, doesn't make a lot of money. Which in some ways might make him more valuable to other teams in wanting him, knowing that he doesn't make a lot of money, but he also makes him less valuable in terms of the type of player salary that you can take back in some kind of a deal. And oh, by the way, if he's playing at the level he's playing at, it's not like teams are going to be offering you a ton for that player at this particular point in time. And so he would have to be packaged with other players that frankly at this point are negative assets. So you could say, JD, make all these trades. Some of the guys that they have to actually start playing better to increase their value to a point to where you can be able to include them in some kind of a deal. Rich Ray, the rookie, is the fourth best player on the team. Shameful. Yeah, Will Richard tonight was the Warriors' fourth best player. It was Steph. It was Draymond doing a number on Sengun and really winning that matchup tonight. Draymond was a +9. Sengun was a -14, even though Sengun ended up with 16 points. But Draymond won the matchup tonight head-to-head, was making Sengun work. Sengun's missing shots. Jimmy Butler scores 21 in the game tonight. Do you want to see Jimmy shoot it more than 11 times? I think the answer on a night where others are not bringing it or don't have it is probably yes. But, yeah, it was Steph, and it was Jimmy, and it was Draymond, and it was Will Richard in the game tonight that was performing at the best level. And then you look, not enough from post, not enough from Hield. I mean, Hield, -10, 0 for 3. Guy Santos got in there and was part of when the Rockets went on their run to flip the game. And he was playing in part because of GP2's injury, I believe, and he didn't have it tonight either. Estimated eyes, the trouble is only one guy of the core can only do it one guy at a time. And so, yeah, that's a fact. And it's something that I don't think is necessarily going to be changing anytime soon. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take our first time out here. We'll come back. We'll get more in the YouTube chat. We got a couple of phone lines open if you want to jump in and join the conversation. We'll get back to the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. What is the biggest problem with this team right now? And again, Steve Kerr says takes 20 games to figure out what you have. The Jag core. Yes, the Jag core. Appreciate that. Yeah. And I think we know this team doesn't have enough. And I think that's the thing. Yeah, Jag is too respectful, I feel like. It is tonight. It is for these first 20 games. That's kind of why I omitted it at this point. So more from the YouTube chat coming up. Warriors lose this one to the Houston Rockets, 104-100. Dubs OT with JD from Harmonic and Thrive City. We're rolling on right here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Green has had some beautiful assists tonight. Thompson on a drive. Offensive foul. Curry draws the charge. And Thompson took a shot. And Curry shaken up as well. Curry comes up limping. That's going to be 5 on Thompson. Curry shaking his head, saying he's okay. And still with a slight limp.
Yeah, and that slight limp got progressively worse as Curry hit the deck a couple of other times down the stretch in this one. Call, of course, overturned upon a Rockets challenge. I'm still trying to figure how that winds up being a blocking foul. That looked like, Christian McCaffrey, coming around the left side with Trent Williams knocking a cornerback to the ground. That was a charge. I'm not sure how that one winds up getting overturned, but alas, it did. It wound up being a foul on Curry. Curry hurt, and a right quad contusion for Steph Curry, the official word in the aftermath of the Warriors' 104-100 loss to the Houston Rockets. So I think I'll agree with Steve Kerr. That's probably good news at this point, that it's not some kind of a knee issue, and that it's not some kind of an ankle issue. But Steph was more visibly sore and limping as the game went on, to the point where Rick Celebrini took him out of the game with 35 seconds to go. And the Warriors, I think, down by 5 at that point. So still a chance, but Curry calling it a night, and so he'll get an MRI there. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. 20 games in the books. What do we know about this team through 20 games? Frustratingly, they are 10-10, and I think they're going to have to look to make some changes to this roster when they can. But the problem is, at this point, it's too early to look to make changes to the roster. And so they're going to have to find a way to change it up and mix it up and get more out of the young players and get better balance between the veterans and the young players as well on a night in, night out basis. And they may have to do it at least for a game or two without Steph and Curry here moving forward. So let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR. Danny in Vancouver gets us rolling this segment here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Hey, Danny.
Good evening, JD. First, I want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving holiday. Wishing you all the best. Hope you get some time off. So, just wanted to say that first. I know you say you don't grade wins, but if we're grading losses, this was a really, really bad loss. So, I think this should have been a comfortable win. They were missing key players. There's just no excuses. Regarding your question, I think the Warriors are at best a 45-win team. At best. I think that would be lucky to win 45 games at this point. Part of the issues, way too much load management. They absolutely don't have the luxury, JD, to do that. They just, they can barely win the games. And they're doing a lot of load management, and the players that they brought in that were supposed to help aren't playing. So that's a problem. A couple other thoughts. I think someone in the chat room mentioned something about, seems like the rookies and role players always seem to come in and have career nights versus the Warriors, which is very frustrating. Very frustrating. Like Reed Shepherd, I don't know how he got 29 points. And just regarding personnel, I think Buddy absolutely has to go now. I know he's super popular. I know he's trying on defense, but he's absolutely worthless if he's not hitting. Absolutely. And I think, I don't know what's going on with Pods. Maybe this is just the best he can be, but he's got to go. I thought the only one who was really showed anything tonight was Will Richard. So anyways, just very last comment. I seriously think, I hate to say it, but if they can't get some help, if they can't hang on to get some people back and get some help in the next 10 or 15 games, and Tank Nation, baby. I mean, I don't know what's the point. So anyway, JD, I hate to be negative. Anyways, thanks for everything. Enjoy the show. Cheers.
No, appreciate it, Danny, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And yeah, for the Rockets to be able to come in without Kevin Durant and be able to have Reed Shepherd basically play the role of Kevin Durant and go for a career high. I mean, that's not it. Like that's not, something that you want to have happen. And it just, he got whatever he wanted in the mid range, and he hit open looks. And when the Rockets weren't hitting, as they weren't for most of the night, they were getting the ball right back. Because at one point in the third quarter, I looked up and the Rockets had a 50% offensive rebounding percentage. Now, offensive rebounding percentage, that means you can go look at the sheer total of offensive rebounds, and that number is astronomical. 25 offensive rebounds for the Rockets. Look at it this way. They had 25 offensive rebounds. The Warriors in this game had 34 defensive rebounds. So the Warriors got the Rockets at one point in the third quarter had a 50% offensive rebounding percentage. So they were getting 50% of their missed shots back on an offensive rebound. So when Shepherd wasn't getting his, and I thought Aaron Holiday had some big buckets. I was kind of wondering how the Rockets going to have enough offense to finish this on a night where Draymond was kind of doing his thing with Şengün, and it was Reed Shepherd, and it was all the extra possessions and extra attempts that the Rockets were able to get. There is just no such thing as a comfortable win for the Warriors, and they've had to work so hard. And yeah, the Utah win, completely meaningless. That was about Utah. And I'm with you. They're just not getting enough from the young players. Too much inconsistency. And, as far as like looking at tanking, it's just we're not anywhere near that point yet. You have to make a point to invest in the guys that you have that you believe can be a championship leading trio in Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. And I think, the Warriors thought they were closer with a lot of the guys they had, plus Horford, and we'll see what Melton can provide. But they're just not getting the production from the players that were a big part of it, as we've talked about a lot here in the first hour of the show, compared to what they were over those final 31 games. So, yeah, Buddy Hield's got to be taken out of the rotation. The problem is, and this is the problem with the young players too, is the fact that, Brandon Podziemski didn't play well tonight, but there really isn't another option for Steve Kerr to go to. GP2 was hurt. Kuminga's already out, so you go to GP2 because Kuminga's out, then GP2 gets hurt, so you go to Guy Santos, and Guy Santos is bad. If Podziemski's bad, who are you going to go to? Like it was the big three and Will Richard was really who you felt. Podziemski was probably the next best option tonight, and he wasn't even good. And so you're at that point where you're kind of out of options, and you're stuck on a lot of nights playing a player that's just not playing well. And I feel like there's been too many of those nights where the Warriors find themselves playing a player that's not playing well on that given night because there just isn't another option for Steve Kerr to go to. And that's kind of where I'm at with Buddy Hield. And, maybe it's Seth Curry. Can he give you a little bit of what you were expecting to get from Buddy Hield in terms of shooting and maybe a little bit of an infusion potentially. But yeah, I think they got to go away from Buddy. At this point, I think they keep playing Will Richard. I think you got to keep playing Moody. I think, when Melton comes back, that's going to be somebody that, assuming he can play enough minutes, it will take minutes from Pods, will take minutes from Buddy. But again, they don't want to overtax DeAnthony Melton, who hasn't played in a year, coming off an ACL tear. So even that part of the equation is a little bit tricky. All right, let's get back into the YouTube chat. 808 KNBR is the number. JC Mack, after 20 games, we know JK doesn't fit. Pods is not it. Moody's inconsistent. Buddy is a negative. The roster is old and small. But we also knew this last year. Well, we knew some of this last year. We knew JK wasn't a fit last year. Pods was doing the job as a role player last year, especially over the final 31. He was doing the job. Moses Moody was doing the job at a greater level at the end of last year than he has consistently to begin this year. Buddy was productive enough on a lot of nights. Buddy won the Warriors Game 7 of the freaking playoff series against the Rockets in Houston. I mean, they're getting nothing from Buddy Hield now. So, JK, I guess, kind of a wash after the first 5 games. And the one thing I will say, I mean, you weren't counting on JK last year. So not having JK this year, that I sort of separate. Like he's kind of in his own category in terms of blame. And I don't give him any blame like at this point. Like he is part of the solution, I feel like, in terms of you use him to bring somebody in who does fit and does help. So he's part of the solution in that way, but he hasn't played, nearly enough to be considered part of the problem. We all know why he was brought back, and it wasn't to actually remain on this Warriors roster. It was as the human trade exception to be used come January 15th. So to me, it's more about Pods and Moody and their inconsistencies and not getting enough from them or Buddy compared to last year. Today was finally a wake-up call of the reality of the team. Pods hasn't been what the front office expected. Kuminga's out. Moody also possibly could be shipped. I think Kuminga and Pods are the guys. And look, if you got to throw in Moody because he'll get you a more consistent version of Moody, then maybe. But that is the one. Like if we're keeping score of who would you keep and who would you move on from, I would still lean keep Moody because there are a lot of nights where he is the point of attack defender, and there are a lot of nights where he is the 3-and-D wing, and I would keep Will Richard along those lines as well because, again, those two guys are the most like some of the other players throughout the league that drive a closeout wing that's going to knock down the open shot in theory and can also have the potential to be a point of attack defender. Pods is just not been good enough. And again, Kuminga is your one chip to be able to use. It's less at this point about what can Kuminga provide you and more about what Kuminga can get you. Again, to no real fault of his own by anything that he's done being on the court or not being on the court to this point of the season. 808 KNBR continuing on. Call up LJ Cryer already from the G League. Well, LJ Cryer is somebody, I mean, he's not even on a two-way deal. So while he is in the Warriors system, he is somebody that would have to be signed to either a two-way contract or to the active roster to be able to bring him up. And now we're waiting on Seth Curry. Like, what the hell's going on with Seth Curry? I've been sort of reluctant to say, he's going to bring anything major to the table, but the reality is if Pods is going to be as bad as Pods has been and you're going to get this little production from Buddy Hield, you might as well throw Seth Curry in the Buddy Hield minutes at this point. JK will come back soon. Seth and Melton will play soon. Dubs will be back in the top 5. Yeah, Melton is the only one that you can count on as being a significant net positive over the long haul among that group in terms of the ability to help. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, JK isn't saving this. Like, it's like he may come back and help in his role but he's not saving it to the point where you're going to say, hey, he's somebody that you're going to be deciding that you want to be able to keep around. But Melton is, and Steve Kerr said pregame that Melton's looked amazing in some of the 5-on-5 scrimmages. And so, I mean, his return can't come soon enough. And I do think we're within probably 2 weeks of a DeAnthony Melton 2025-2026 debut. I think, early December is kind of my read on it. And we're going to be at early December here in 5 days. So I think we are probably going to see DeAnthony Melton, barring some kind of a setback, within the next 10 to 14 days as we sit here on November the 26th. Fogtown Ghost. It's November, early in the season. It's clear they need moves. Curry and Butler need help. Not sure how real the Sabonis rumors are. I don't think they're real at all. Sabonis is making $45 million Like, how the hell are you're going to get Sabonis for you're going to get Sabonis for Kuminga and Buddy and Pods and Moody and what, like, how the Warriors, that doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. So, although Sabonis, I do think, is the kind of player that would help the Warriors in the regular season, that just does not seem to be a contractual fit when you look at the salaries of it. And so, you look at Sabonis. Sabonis is making 42.3 this year. So Kuminga is 22.5. You throw that in there. I mean, they'd have to want to take Buddy Hield back, but why would they want to take Buddy Hield back? I guess because you're going to free them up of the 2.5 years of Sabonis. The other thing about Sabonis is hurt right now too. Sabonis has got a knee injury himself, and so I don't know that you're going to want Domantas Sabonis, coming in with that much money left on the contract, having an injury. I mean, he's got a partially torn meniscus. Like, do you want Domantas Sabonis with a partially torn meniscus making north of $42 million for this year plus $2? Hell no. Like, and again, I like Sabonis as a regular season player, but Kyle, help me out here, man. Again, no, guy's making 42, 45, 46. He's got a torn meniscus, and you're talking about, Domantas Sabonis is somebody the Warriors need. He ain't a presence in the interior.
We're also old and kind of beaten down, and now we're just getting older and more beaten down by adding a Sabonis.
I don't see that one at all. I know there have been some rumors, but I look at Domantas Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis is going to be 30 in May, so he will play the remainder of this year, coming up at 29. But he's got a torn meniscus. Like, and estimated eyes. How would that even work with Dre on the team? That part of it. Again, Sabonis is he's a great passer as a center. He can score on the interior. He's a rebounder. He is a terrific regular season player. I like Domantas Sabonis as a regular season player, but again, you got to give up. Kuminga and Buddy don't even get you to what you'd be giving up to get Domantas Sabonis. So I don't know. I don't see that, and the Warriors have been reluctant to look to add beyond the next 2 years, this year and next, in terms of anybody that's making significant money. So Diggum, 1166 here. Either get a quality big or a guard that can defend on the perimeter. Right now they have neither. It's threefold. It's that combo guard, which I think Melton is kind of the combo guard in a sense, although they love playing him with Steph Curry. But Melton is kind of that guy. To me, it's the 3-and-D wing. Like, I just, above everything, it's probably the big man next, and then the combo guard type would be third. And again, the Warriors already have a lot of guards, and so it just, and Melton's coming back, and they still have that's going to be another guard in the mix for the Warriors. So I know everybody always wants a big, and they're not getting enough from Horford compared to what they thought they were going to get, and that's a problem. But I think the number one area that can be helped the quickest would be if you get a 3-and-D wing that can be in your closing lineup. Think PJ Washington, think Trey Murphy, think along those lines. And they need something, because this team's flat, and honestly, they look like they lack the ability to compete on a night in, night out basis. They're starting to look, unfortunately, like the kind of team that they've looked like the last 3 seasons before they've gotten on their second half runs, which is the kind of team that is not, like, knows that they're not good enough. And because they know that they're not good enough, it's lessening their ability on a night in, night out basis to play hard consistently. So they are looking to me more and more like a team that needs an infusion from the outside to get the players that they have, even the big three, to be locked in a little bit more consistently because they believe in the remainder of the Warriors roster at that point. All right, from Diggum we go to No Cap. JD, this team is exactly where they're supposed to be. They wouldn't trade any of the core and kept playing them all. They don't move assets in trades, won't package the kids, and bad at drafting. Well, it's going to have to change. It's going to have to change, or they're going to middling themselves to a play-in tournament win probably and a first-round exit. And you want to talk about wasting a year. That would be a bigger waste if that's the Warriors' fate at the end of this year than anything that they've wasted the last 3 years since they last won a championship in 2022. If this team comes back and they don't make the moves necessary, they don't look. Once you commit to the veteran core, even if you think that the young players can add to it in a way that's significant enough, when you commit to the veteran core, if the young players aren't holding up their end of the bargain, you freaking move the young players. That is an unacceptable outcome. It's unacceptable to keep Pods, keep JK, keep Moody, keep all the young guys, be a 7 seed, get through the play-in tournament, lose to Denver or OKC or Houston or whoever. And let me tell you something. This team ain't beaten Houston in a playoff series this year with KD. They can't even beat this team in a November game without Kevin Durant. They're not beating Houston with Kevin Durant and the defense that the Rockets play. That was the difference in the series a year ago, is the fact that the Rockets couldn't get a bucket. So that's an unacceptable outcome, if you're asking me at this point in time. Unacceptable. Like, you commit to the vets, that means you sell on the young guys. And here's the other part of it. As I've said many times, none of the young guys are part of a future championship core. Like, there is no world where Pods, Will Richard, Moody, Kuminga, and Quentin Post as a 5-man group is winning you squat. Like, there is no scenario where that's happening. So you shouldn't be all that worried about moving any of those guys when push comes to shove for Steph and Jimmy and Draymond to have a better shot at being able to try to compete or contend come March, April, May. Adrian Gutierrez. Pods plays no defense, gets blown by. You can't play him with Curry. Kerr doesn't learn. Well, you could play him with Curry last year. I mean, the Warriors' best lineup last year was Curry, Pods, Moody, Jimmy, and Draymond. So I don't know that I necessarily buy that. But I do think when Podziemski's offensive game is out of whack, the rest of his game gets out of whack. And he looks unconfident. I can't believe the free throws. I mean, there were collective groans inside Chase Center tonight when Pods missed 1, 2, then got a reprieve on the lane violation and misses a third free. I mean, Kerr had to get him out of the game at that point. And he went back to Moses Moody. I mean, they're going to have to move on from him, I think. It's becoming I think it's becoming too much of a thing, even with the fan base, disliking him more and more by the night, to where, is this going to be sustainable moving forward? I think that's something that's going to have to be assessed here moving forward. 1-9 with a turnover battle, 0-16 when opponent top guy is out. No KD tonight. But the Warriors know better. Like, I don't think tonight was KD wasn't there and they let up. Like, that wasn't tonight. The Warriors came out smoking in this game. The Warriors were up 11-3. They were up 14-6. They were making threes. It was 20-11. Like, the dumb turnovers and the offensive rebounds was what kept the Rockets from getting completely blown out. And then, as the game went on, the Rockets imposed their will more defensively. But, the turnover battle has been the greatest indicator as to the Warriors' success level this season. And when they lose the turnover battle, they lose the game. The only one they won was the game against the Pelicans going back a week and a half ago. And when they ended up, because of the second chance points, losing the game to Portland in the one time that they won the turnover battle. But I didn't feel like tonight tonight was not the Warriors didn't bring it because Durant wasn't playing. Tonight was the Warriors did bring it. They got outworked on the offensive glass. And as the game went on, the defense of the Rockets showed through, and the Warriors went cold from three in the second half to the tune of, again, 10 for 22 in the first half. Do the math. They were 2 for 21 from three in the second half. The Warriors outshot their other mistakes in the first half, and they couldn't do it in the second half. And they go cold. The Rockets' physicality ends up ruling the day, and Houston walks out of Chase Center with a 104-100 victory over the Dubs. All right, let's get one more. We got to take a timeout. Let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. We'll come back. We'll get to sounds of Dubs OT on the other side, and then more from the YouTube chat. Some fun with numbers as well, and our final installment of Kyle's Clicks as the Warriors lose this one to the Rockets. We're talking about it right here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, welcome back. Warriors lose 104-100 to the Rockets. They're 10-10 through 20 games. We're going to hear from Steve Kerr on the Warriors being 10-10. We're also going to hear from Jimmy Butler in the Warriors locker room, and we're going to hear from Draymond Green in the Warriors locker room as well once we're able to get all that clipped up and edited. It was Draymond uncut tonight in the Warriors locker room. A lot of bleeps tonight, as Kyle Haar points out. So we're gonna get that cleaned up so we don't lose the license and get it to you here toward the back end of Sounds of Dubs OT. We're back at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Warriors lose again to the Rockets, 104-100. More Kyle's Clicks coming up as well as we get you closer to the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll go probably another 20-plus minutes or so here as the Warriors lose this one on this Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve. All right, let's hear from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr. First up here is the number one thing on everybody's mind beyond the Warriors' loss to the Rockets to dip to 10-10. It's Steve Kerr giving everybody an update on Stephen Curry's injury.
Did you get any clarity on even what body part Steph injured?
Quad.
He was limping back to the replay challenge. Did you notice that? Did he?
Yeah.
That was the same thing that it kind of cropped up throughout.
Yes, I didn't ask him. I always just rely on the training staff to tell me whatever I need to know. So but I did see him limping. Yeah.
All right, so it's a quad there as well. For Steve didn't give the note there. I guess Warriors PR had announced it to everybody in the room. So it is a quad injury. Steph Curry going for an MRI, and so that was Steve not providing much, but quad injury for Stephen Curry, and so MRI. We'll see. The Warriors don't play again until Saturday. All right, let's move on to the game tonight. And what went wrong for the Warriors and what, in Steve Kerr's mind, was the turning point for the game in which the Warriors lost the momentum after having a 12-point lead at halftime.
I would argue that the game changed, the last 5 minutes of the third quarter. We had a 12-point lead in there, and we just started turning it over and fouling. They were in the bonus for the last 5 minutes. I think we fouled them 3 or 4 times, and so we just kept giving them easy points. Didn't really execute much offensively. We missed some open ones, but it never felt like we had any rhythm and flow, which is why I went to Pat in the fourth. Pat has to start the fourth. He's given us some good minutes off the bench so far in the early season and helped us get some offensive rhythm. But that group just couldn't get anything going. And so, it was a tough stretch, late third, early fourth.
Yeah, late third, and the Warriors continue to play their worst basketball at the end of first quarters and third quarters. They have, for the most part, their start of the second and fourth quarter lineup set. For the most part, they've had their starting lineup set. They can pick a closing lineup based on who's playing well in a given night. But the groups that have played, bridging the time in which Curry has been on the floor before his first sub of a half. Tonight it was basically, Curry was out there with Guy Santos, Quentin Post, Buddy Hield, and Brandon Pajemski. And it was that group, and Guy Santos playing because GP2 was injured and unavailable. It was that group where the game flipped. And then Kerr went to Pat Spencer. Again, Pat Spencer, the Pat Spencer thing, it's cute when you're playing Utah. And I know he did give him a change of pace in the playoffs at different times, but I mean, Pat Spencer, if Pat Spencer's your move, then you don't really have a move in a game against another team that fancies itself a contender in the Western Conference, which, of course, the Rockets do as a team that played the Warriors last year to a 7-game series. So, yeah, that point of the game, definitely where it flipped. Warriors were up 12 at the half. They were up 12 throughout the third quarter, and then the Rockets come back again against that Curry, Pods, Buddy, Guy Santos, Quentin Post group to get back in the game, and then took control in the fourth quarter, built an 8-point lead themselves, and wind up winning the game 104-100. So Steve Kerr on that. All right, let's hear our third Steve Kerr clip. And this one is about the 10-10 start to the season. I think it has to be considered a disappointment to everyone, especially considering the fact that this team was 4-1, especially considering the 23-8 to close last season over 31 games. But here's Steve Kerr reflecting on 20 games and what he's learned about this team as they attempt to move forward here on the homestand.
Steve, how would you describe your guys' identity at the 20-game mark?
How would I describe
the identity of the team right now?
The identity? Mark? Well, what did Bill Parcells say? You are what your record says you are. So we're 10-10. We're an average team, and I think we have the potential for much more. And it's my job as coach to help these guys find that rhythm that can give us some juice, some separation, some confidence. And so I believe in them, and I believe in our guys, our continuity that we've got from, not only last year, but with Steph and Dre for, 14, 15 years, whatever it's been. So I believe in the guys, and we've just got to keep working, and we'll get there.
Yeah, got to keep working. And again, I mean, what, the potential for more, it may be there. But again, we're a quarter of the way through the season now. And I think, starting over again is another, kind of theme of the night. I mean, you're 10-10. You can't separate from 500. Now you're potentially dealing with a Steph Curry injury. Like, you can have the confidence and try to keep it positive as Steve Kerr is doing here. And you play the Pelicans on Saturday, so that's a winnable game, although you may be playing that game without Steph Curry. So it immediately becomes a much less winnable game than it would otherwise be. And so there's some pressure on the others at that point to take up some of the slack. And maybe that pressure is what needs to be felt at this point for the Warriors to get off the schneid and start to get on some semblance of a run. But just too much inconsistency at this point through 20 games. And again, I think Coach Kerr knows there's 50 days till January 15th. I think he knows the trade deadline is 3 weeks beyond that on February 5th. And so this team is going to have to find some semblance of a means to stabilize and push forward with the group that they have in the short term until the true reinforcements can be added to the mix at different points down the line, and then they can get the real team on the court February, March, and April and try to get on some semblance of a run to close out the season. But again, we'll see. I think tinker time has to be done. But the problem is when you can't find consistency in terms of the one-loss record, typically that leads to more tinkering. And again, I just don't think the tinkering has been by any stretch when this Warriors team has been at its most effective during the time that Steve Kerr's been the head coach. All right, let's hear from Draymond Green next. And we had to bleep this out, this courtesy of Anthony Slater, as well of ESPN, who was in the Warriors locker room. Draymond and Jimmy Butler both meeting with the media in the Warriors locker room, and an always candid Draymond Green weighing in here on the performance of this team tonight and the performance of this team through the first 20 games, and in particular the last 15 games. As you look at this team, after the 4-1 start, this team is 6-9 now in the last 15. Here's Draymond.
If you take on your challenge, then we can make the team thing work. But the only way the team can work is if we take on individual challenges. And right now, we are individually. I know everybody likes to twist words. I said we are individually awful.
So there you go. Yeah. Well, collectively, individually, I mean, however you want to put it, I mean, they are collectively awful. I mean, it's like they're collectively not good enough. And again, it's different issues on different nights. I mean, there's been nights throughout this season through 20 games where the veterans haven't brought it or haven't played well. There have been a lot of nights, I think more nights than the others have been the veteran, it's been the young guys who haven't provided enough of the slack, but it hasn't been the young guys alone by any stretch. And so they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out here and ramp up the competitiveness, but also ramp up the cohesiveness if they're going to get out of this funk here over the course of the last 15 games, basically, that's seen them go from 4-1 now to this overall 10-10 record. Kyle, do we have Jimmy? Do we have Jimmy ready?
Yeah, Jimmy is ready.
Okay, so Jimmy Butler ready. This also from the Warriors locker room, and I think one of the more telling quotes of the night, Jimmy, just on the overall state of this team being 10-10.
What would change the most? I think we're going to have to be damn near perfect. We ain't going to have the ultimate bailout on our team, but even when he is on the floor, we're going to have to do our job because we make the game real difficult. As great as a basketball player as he is, he has a really hard job every single day. If he's got to be like the Batman of all Batmans and save us every night, like that ain't what he's here to do.
When you say you're making the game hard on yourselves right now?
Yeah.
I guess what do you mean by that?
We don't box out. We don't go with the scout report or that anybody do whatever they want. Open shots, get into the paint, free throws. It's just sad.
Wow. A candid Jimmy Butler there. We don't box out. We don't go with the scouting report. We let anybody do whatever they want. Open shots, get into the paint, free throws. It's just sad. Man, that is a blunt and honest assessment as you'll ever hear from both Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. And the point now becomes, how does it change? And again, the only way that this changes, as much as we can quibble about, is it more the vets? Is it more the young guys? They got to make changes to the roster, which technically they can't do right now. The only way this changes is if the veteran guys lead them out of it. You need more production from the young guys, but you need more consistency in terms of effort and tone setting from the veteran guys. And again, I'm even going to take Steph out of the equation. I think it's the two guys that we just heard from that have to set. Steph sets the tone by example every night as to what the standard is for this Warriors team. And I would say probably, 75% of the time, his play has backed it up this year in a major, major, major way. Tonight, maybe not as much. But as Jimmy Butler said, Steph's got an incredibly difficult job at this point because he's not getting the help he needs up and down. And I think that's where really it goes to Jimmy and it goes to Draymond. Those two have to consistently be the tone setters for the young players to follow along. And they got to bring it night in, night out. And they got to play better night in, night out. They got to set the tone that they're going to block out and follow the scouting report and rebound and defend and play hard. It can't be, and this is the formula that we've seen just doesn't work. It can't be the veterans half-ass taking a night off and expecting the young guys to fill the void. They're not good enough. And so the veterans, I think, have to do a better job of dragging the young players to a point to where, at least in the interim, until they can make some trades. And again, make no mistake, this team needs to make multiple moves. And it's very difficult during an NBA season to be able to do that. And maybe DeAnthony Melton is one of the moves, his return. But they have to make a trade to get a wing. They have to get one more playable wing that's a bona fide fourth player that's going to be in the closing lineup basically every night with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. A guy that can defend, that can hit the three ball. That has to happen. But in the meantime, the veterans have to lead by example and maybe lead by getting in somebody's face and showing them the way. That's the only way out of this. And again, I think this team is at a point in which, and they were there a couple of weeks ago and they got a couple of wins. They're again at a point now where they need to find a way to be able to pull themselves out of it, otherwise risking fractures. They're risking fractures, I think, in the locker room. And I think you're seeing it, the frustration building, the frustration mounting. And we saw it, again, the last time Draymond and Jimmy spoke with this tone was after the OKC game. It was after the Warriors got beat in OKC, and then they came out and they rattled off 3 consecutive wins. They need that type of level of intent, focusedness moving forward here beginning on Saturday night. They may have to do it without Steph Curry for a short period of time. All right, that's our Sounds of Dubs OT. Great stuff tonight. Appreciate it. Jordan Pratari and Kyle Chung, and, of course, the great Kyle Haar in our Daly City studios. Thanks to all of them for assisting in putting together our Sounds of Dubs OT. All right, Kyle, let's get back to the YouTube chat here in our final, let's say, 7 to 10 minutes before we close things up here at Harmonic. Dom Peralta, gravitational pull of 500. Yikes. Feels that way. They've got to figure out a way to string some wins together. And again, you've got the Pelicans coming in Saturday, but then you get OKC and you're going back on the road. So good luck. I mean, it doesn't feel like they're going to be able to get on a streak necessarily anytime soon. Good comment there from Dom. Jerron Hopkins, if Curry doesn't play Saturday, I'm a crash out. Yeah, a lot. I mean, look, we've seen this team can lose to anybody if Steph's not playing. So they may have to figure it out again. You hope it's some kind of a muscle thing or a bruise that can heal within a couple of days. I think, you got to hope maybe it was a Charlie horse or something that can get smoothed out. This time tomorrow, Steph's feeling pretty good after a fat turkey dinner and some wine and whatever, and he's ready to get back to practice on Friday morning when the Warriors are back at it. Fasten Entertainment 2151. I wasted my time watching this game when I should have started Stranger Things. Instead, shake my head. I'm over this team until we want to be real with themselves and understand this team is going nowhere fast. It's a lot to chew on there. I don't think you waste. I mean, anytime anybody says they wasted their time, watching a game. I mean, this was not, again, everybody has their own definition of that, but tonight didn't feel like a time waster. OKC felt like a time waster. Losing in Sacramento when nobody plays feels like a time. Tonight doesn't feel like a time. Miami's a time waster, even though the guys that played competed in that game. What up, JD? Always good to see you, brother. Sorry it was under these circumstances. Yeah, I knew about Brock first, chiming in and checking out. Yeah, always good to see you as well. Appreciate those who always come out and say what's up at Harmonic in Thrive City as well here on Dubs OT. Florida Dubs fan, the best thing about the rest of the season ain't the games anymore. It's Dubs OT and just Dubs. And that's right. And we're going to have both for you on Saturday. 11 to noon, just Dubs. We'll be squawking about where the Warriors stand here after 20 games. And Dubs OT right back here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City after the Warriors take on the Pelicans on Saturday night, right around 8 o'clock. And then after the Warriors take on the Thunder on Tuesday night, which is going to be a game that starts at 8 o'clock on NBC. So it'll be a Dubs OT After Dark edition. Late night, a little late night Dubs OT. A little don't lose the license Dubs OT on that Tuesday night. But yeah, no, we're here for you every night. What's up with the Kerr criticism? He wasn't out there bricking shots, rebel to sounds. Look, anytime the Warriors lose, there's a belief that Kerr's bleeping it up. I mean, and I've seen a ton about 4-guard lineups, and it's like, what? The 4-guard lineup thing is becoming a pet peeve of mine because, Moody's a forward and a guard. Like, Moody's a forward. To me, 4-guard, Will Richard is a forward and a guard. So, like, you can't tell me that a Moody, Will Richard, Pajemski, Steph lineup or a Pajemski, Buddy Hield, Moody, Will Richard lineup is a 4-guard lineup. It's not a 4-guard lineup. Moody's not a guard. He's a forward. In that, and he plays both. So you can tell me that's a 3-guard lineup, but this notion that everything, all these bad lineups get glossed as being 4-guard lineups. If Jimmy ain't out there and Draymond ain't out there, and Quentin Post is Quentin Post is the only big, and but Kerr's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out. He's got to find the right combinations, and this team's got to stop getting wrecked at the end of the first and the third quarters. Like that's been the biggest weakness. For the most part, the starting lineups have been fine. That all of the different iterations, when Kuminga was in, Kuminga was not. Will Richard's been in of late. Like all the starting Pods has been in and out. Post has been in and out. The starting lineups haven't been the problem. For the most part, the start of the second and fourth quarter lineup, it's changed a little bit. But for the most part, that's been Pods, Moody, Jimmy, Draymond, and Post. That's been pretty consistent, and that group for the most part has been good. The problems have been the groups when it's Steph for about 2 minutes at the end of the quarter with Buddy and Pods, and sometimes Horford's been out there. GP2's been out there in some of those lines. It's been those lineups before Steph makes his first sub of the night or of the half, and when Jimmy comes in and finishes the quarter before Jimmy remains in with that other group at the start of the second and the fourth. The biggest weak spot on this Warriors team in terms of time of game has been that into the third and into the first quarters with those groups. Guy Santos was playing in the third quarter tonight. I mean, gross stuff. So yeah, Kerr's got to figure it out. Look, this team's 10-10. They're underachieving. He's got to. It is. He is not absolved from any level of criticism. Estimated eyes, rotations don't matter when the Jags are all the same. Yeah, I mean, one night, how often has this happened, Kyle, where it's like one night it's like, yeah, Quentin Post played well, Will Richard played well, Pods and Moody were ass, for lack of a better term, right? Oh, Pods played well, Moody didn't. Moody played well, Pods played well, they got nothing from QP or nothing from others. So, yeah, that's...
And it really is just like one of this group of 4 or 5 players too. It's rarely multiple of the group.
Yeah, it's not Kuminga and Pods. It's not Moody and Pods.
Right,
Although it has
right.
been Moody and Pods, I think, a couple of times. It's never Kuminga and Moody, I think, except for maybe one night. And so, yeah, it's like there's always, but they're inconsistent players. So you have to figure out the right guys in the right nights, and you have to figure out the guys that are going to play every night regardless. All right, let's get a few more here. Pods, bricks, 3 free throws. Mrs. Jazz fan. His left hand isn't working. Oh, my goodness. San Jose Jazz fan 8. Yikes. Yeah, that to me, and look, the game had already flipped in the middle of the third, toward the end of the third quarter, but the overturn of the Amen Thompson offensive foul into a block on Curry, and then the Pods 3 missed free throws. Jeez Louise, man. Like, that was like, I mean, you could feel the angst in Chase Center when Pods missed the 3 straight free throws. It was not pretty inside that building. Rich Ray, no Looney equals no rebounds. It looks like you got to collectively rebound. It's cliche, it's trite, it's chalk. If you're going to play small, you have to collectively rebound. And that's the one thing that typically Pods actually does when he's out there in some of those small ball lineups. He hasn't been doing that as much. I think he's in his own head because he's not scoring the ball and playing well in those areas. And then he's finding himself impacting the game in other ways less than we've seen him impact the game throughout the course of his time here with the Warriors. Robert Brown, Warriors thought they were getting Jalen Williams, the second with their pick of Pods. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But again, the right now it feels like Pods is regressing. You know, forget about making a third-year leap. Forget about becoming Jordan Poole in terms of impact. Forget about all that, and that was ridiculous, asinine for anybody that would have thought that. But forget about that. He's regressing right now, and regressing to a point where he needs to play less. And the reality is the Warriors need him to play more. Kyle Chung tapping out. Good plus-minus for Kyle Chung tonight. Appreciate that.
One of the few bright spots tonight.
One of the few bright spots, Kyle Chung. His development is off the charts. Let me tell you something. Kyle Haar can develop players. Kyle Haar, I mean, Greg Silver can develop players. Greg Silver developed Kyle Haar. Now Kyle Haar is developing Kyle Chung and Jordan and everybody.
The Greg Silver tree, family tree.
Cole Lapel. Just got to figure out how to teach Jordan how to work that chair. That's the only issue. It's the only issue. For those in the YouTube chat, she's having a little trouble with the chair earlier. All right, let's get a couple of more. You feel free to cut me off whenever, Kyle. We're getting. Kerr can't play finesse basketball when you don't have finesse. Yeah, the Warriors don't. The Warriors are lacking in skill. They're still lacking in shooting. They're lacking in the ability to move the ball consistently without turning it over a ton. And then you get into the size and problems with athleticism and all of that on top of everything else. So it's not pretty. Bees knees, the Dubs have to go 40-22 to get a top 6 seed. Yeah. That's what's going to take to get you 50. I might be crazy, and I want to look at this before we get to our last chat. I'm looking right now, and Phoenix won again tonight in Sacramento. They cooled off the suddenly red-hot Kings. Had won 2 in a row. But Phoenix is 12-7, Kyle. So Phoenix is playing 6:32 basketball. So we're going to, it's pretty good. I'm at Phoenix, and I don't think Phoenix is going to be at this. Phoenix is on a 51-win pace. I don't think they keep up that pace. San Antonio's slightly better. Minnesota's always kind of meandering around the play-in tournament. Yeah, I think it probably is going to be 50 to get into the top 6. And I'm sorry. There is no chance in hell the Warriors can go 40-22 without multiple moves at the deadline. This team cannot do it. And Danny in Vancouver said 45. That would be over the final 62? That would be 35-27. That feels about right. 35-36 wins from now, 45-46 wins. But even that, this team's still going to have to play with the group they currently have a lot better than they have to this point. All right, let's get to our comment of the night before we wrap things up.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Should probably change the title from Dubs OT to Dubs Therapy Session. Not happening. Not happening. We're keeping the name. Damn it. We're keeping the name, but we are here for you. We are here for you. Appreciate that.
Good motto. Good motto.
Zercorex. Dubs. It has felt a little bit like a therapy session a few times here over the last couple of weeks. Tonight, definitely. Not that you lose, but that you lose to the Rockets without KD, and Reed Shepherd goes for a career-high 31, and you have a 12-point lead, and you just completely flame out offensively, and you get beat in ways that are the biggest weaknesses of this team. Size, rebounding, turnovers, and the inability to generate enough offense when shots are not going in. You have something to add? Dubpression. Okay. Yeah, Dubs OT, BetterHelp edition. These are good. We got some bonus Kyle's clicks tonight. I like this. I like this a lot. All right, that's going to do it in terms of our sounds of Dubs OT. All right, let's close up shop with a little fun with numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors are 10-10, 6-2 at home. They've dropped 2 of 3 at home here on this homestand. They end up 1-3. No flirting with Vegas this year, Kyle Haar. Remember, the Warriors were, a minute away from heading to Vegas when the Rockets came back and beat them last year in Houston in the Emirates Cup. This year, the Warriors go 1-3 in Group C, so they will not be advancing. Stay tuned. There's, I think Friday's the last night of the group play across the NBA, and then they'll announce the schedule here for that middle week of December. So the Warriors will get a couple of games added to their schedule then. The Rockets have a 1-0 lead in the regular season series against the Dubs. Only 3 matchups between these two teams this season after they played 12 times last year, playoffs included. March 5th at Toyota Center, and then April, the Warriors will take on the Rockets again the final week of the season, April 5th as well. So March and April 5th, the final 2 games. The finale will be at Chase Center. Hope to see Kevin Durant back and playing in those games. The Rockets have won 3 of the last 4 regular season meetings against the Warriors, including the last 2 now at Chase Center. They won at the end of last year. They won a game in the playoffs at Chase Center in Game 6 of that series to force the Game 7. And so the Warriors played their 8th clutch game of the year. Clutch games have not been kind to the Dubs. They were extremely kind to Golden State after the Jimmy Butler trade. They are 3-5 now in clutch games, having played 8. And the Warriors, again, 16 turnovers. The Rockets only had 10 and are on the year now. The Warriors 8-1 when they have the same or fewer turnovers than their opponent. They are 2-9 in games where they don't win the turnover battle. And the Warriors end up allowing the 25 offensive rebounds, which are an opponent's season high. What was the other game where the Warriors gave up 20 or more offensive rebounds? Well, it was the game last Friday against Portland at Chase Center, and the Warriors got beaten. It had a very similar feel to the game tonight, with the Rockets dominating the second half and dominating down the stretch of this one. Jimmy Butler, 21 points. He's got 20 or more in 5 of the last 7. Will Richard, 8th start for Will Richard. He had 18 points tonight, and he was a true bright spot. Keep playing Will Richard. Time to give Will Richard more of Buddy Hield's minutes and maybe some of Pajemski's until DeAnthony Melton comes back. Steph and Curry only 14, 6, and 5. Also had a season-high 2 blocks, and Draymond Green back in the lineup after missing the game with the foot sprain against Utah he did a job tonight against Alperen Şengün, but not enough as the Rockets end up beating the Warriors 104-100. All right, that's going to do it for us on this Wednesday night. Kyle, big thanks to you, my man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Kyle Chung and Jordan Pratari hanging out. And thank you to the chat. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, and making the shows, feel great. Feel like a community.
Yeah, well into the triple digits tonight in terms of folks watching, which is awesome for this. I call it a holiday Wednesday. What do they call it? What do the millennials call this, Kyle? Blackout Wednesday?
Yeah, Blackout Wednesday. Yeah.
I'm going to leave that alone, but
as a millennial, all the college kids come back on Wednesday and then go out.
No, Kyle, I know what Blackout Wednesday is, Kyle. That's I am a millennial, Kyle. I know some may not think but I am. Yeah, I know what Blackout Wednesday is. You go to all your local bars when you're coming home to visit the fam for Thanksgiving. Big thanks to Jordan, big thanks to Kyle, both Kyles tonight, Kyle Chung, and we'll be back on Saturday morning with just Dubs 11 until noon, and then we'll have Dubs OT for you on Saturday right around 8:00 following the Warriors and the Pelicans. So thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat, thanks to the callers, thanks to the texters. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone tonight. Have a wonderful next couple of days. I am off for the next couple of days. Kyle, I hope you're off for the next couple of days. I hope everybody's off for the next couple of days.
Yeah, next time Beautiful. I'll be working will be on Saturday. Yep, with you.
Beautiful. So we'll see you Saturday early in the morning at 11:00, and then for Dubs OT on Saturday evening. Big thanks to Mike and Julia here at Harmonic in Thrive City as well. We'll reconvene with them on Saturday night. Warriors lose this one to the Rockets 104-100. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and we'll talk to you Saturday right here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God!